Hello there and welcome to another video. Today we are going to be talking about how self-awareness might actually become a trap. It's going to be based off of this book, Notes from Underground by Fyodor Dostoevsky. This is actually the same book that I discussed in my previous video, but a slightly different topic. So the general idea is this. We tend to always believe that self-awareness is always a good thing, that the more you know about yourself or the better you understand yourself, the better your decisions, the better your relationships, the better your direction in life in general. And I think this has basically become a very accepted modern virtue, self-awareness. However, in this book, Dostoevsky, his main character, the underground man, is extremely self-aware, but it only messes him up. He's suffering quite a bit from it. The problem is that he understands his own motives and his own flaws before they even happen. He can even predict what he's going to do. He knows why he's doing it, and he knows how other people are going to perceive him. So he's extremely aware, but this only causes trouble for him. So the question that this basically raises is, at which point does self-awareness actually start to become a bad thing? When does it become a trap, like it is for this character? And maybe there is an argument to be made for being a little bit stupid in this regard. Maybe there is some freedom in being ignorant when it comes to this and not being too self-aware all the time. So the idea is that self-awareness is like a very accepted virtue. We see this all the time in movies, in books, in the general narrative. Being self-aware is always depicted as a positive thing. But it might not always be good. It might be detrimental to you sometimes. I think that this is also part of just the psychological trend. We have a lot of psychological language around us all the time. And self-awareness is one of those things that is part of this language. And I thought this book was interesting because it was a little bit the opposite view of what we always hear around us at the moment. Like, what if self-awareness can actually make life worse? This is not something that a lot of people think, so it's pretty interesting. Now, the real problem of this character is that he is unable to act. What do I mean by this? I mean that he has extreme insight into himself. He's not confused or anything. He has extreme insight into himself. He knows his motives, he anticipates his own actions, and he understands how other people are going to perceive him. So the real problem is that he cannot take action to change these outcomes. And it's really, to be honest, his inability to take action or to change the outcomes that is actually hurting him. He's dissecting all of his impulses, all of his motivations, and so on. And because he's overanalyzing himself so much, everything stops feeling genuine. Because everything is basically explained away. It has a boring logical reason, and so there's nothing sincere or genuine about any of it anymore. And at the same time, it paralyzes him from taking any real action, which would actually make him happier. So his superior consciousness basically becomes an obstacle rather than what should be a guide or a useful tool for him to take on life. So he's self-sabotaging, in short, basically. And when he's acting, this is a little bit the same thing that I mentioned in the previous video, or I think I mentioned it, that the character, because he's watching himself so closely, everything starts to become a performance. He's observing himself from the inside, criticizing himself, and the critic is basically always winning. He's watching his intentions, that everything becomes a performance and nothing is genuine anymore. Now, something that is comical about all of this is what it implies. It implies that, or it's not comical, but it's a bit absurd to think that being too intelligent, that someone can be too intelligent for their own good. But this is the case of the character. The joke is that he would be more free, or he would be more happy if he would just be a little bit stupid. And maybe there is some truth to that. Maybe you can find a bit more freedom in acting stupidly, or in some of your ignorance. Maybe there is some retardation that is beneficial. Liberation in your own retardation. That sounds a little bit like a motto. But there might be some truth to it. People that act stupidly might live more freely, and it's not because necessarily they have to be wiser or anything, but because they are more unburdened by the constant introspection, the constant overthinking, and the analysis of yourself. This is of course only beneficial until your stupidity lands you in some sort of trouble, which stupidity tends to do. So we need to keep that in mind as well. So this isn't really an argument for stupidity in itself, but it's more of a warning against constant self-reflection. I think that's a good way to put it. Dostoevsky also shows that too much reason and reasoning and logic and all of these things can dissolve desire by just explaining away everything, which ruins the human experience a bit. Just like this character is dissolving, or like decimating his own happiness in life with all this reasoning. So don't do that, folks. If every single one of your motives, or if anything, every single action you take or your motives are always explained away, nothing really feels worth doing because it's not genuine. So the book, I would say, the general takeaway would be this. We need to chill out when it comes to the self-monitoring. We need to maybe not ask ourselves questions like this character does. Questions like, am I being authentic? How will this look? Or am I being a hypocrite? Maybe we should just say fuck it sometimes and be a hypocrite and have some freedom, you know? Basically, when identity and introspection becomes a topic where you try to reason too much, or it becomes a chore in life, a chore, when it becomes too much of a chore, life also becomes pretty exhausting. So we should avoid that if possible. Now, am I probably over-exaggerating or over-generalizing throughout this whole video? Yes. Healthy self-awareness ideally would support taking action, not like is the case of this character. But this obsessive self-awareness does not support any healthy action, and we should stay away from that. At some point, I think you have to trust yourself enough to risk being awkward, to risk acting badly, or to just be imperfect, which is completely normal. The underground man, unfortunately, cannot grant himself this luxury, but we can grant ourselves this luxury, and we should, in order to enjoy at least. And that's about it. So key takeaway is, remember, there is some liberation in your retardation. And if you have any thoughts, you can leave them in the comments. And that's it for me. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.